In this training, I'm going to teach you how to run effective discovery. The MEDDICCC framework is generally viewed as a best practice discovery methodology in the B2B sales world. Each letter is an acronym: metric, economic buyer, decision maker, decision criteria, identify pain, competitor, champion, compelling event. I'm going to talk about what each one of these letters means, and more importantly, the most impactful questions that you can start asking to begin to put together the pieces of the puzzle. Deals are literally won and lost in discovery. If you do not clearly understand the business implications, the requirements, you can't possibly show a demo, and you most certainly could not fathom putting together a proposal without having done effective discovery, because when your champion takes the business case to the CFO, they're going to say, why would we spend $100,000 with these guys? Like, what is it actually going to do and mean for the business? So by asking more effective questions in discovery, it will increase your sales win rate, your deal sizes, your ability to hit quota, and ultimately you'll take home more money. Let's begin. Starting with M, metric. I like to think about this is, what can we quantify? How many locations do they have? How many employees do they have? And more importantly, as we ask these metric-based questions, it's typically going to lead to helping the company make more money, save more money, or mitigate risk. So a few example questions you could ask to understand the impactful metrics that they are looking to solve. So in my case, selling a payroll software or helping companies hire internationally, that's specific to the company I'm working for. How many entities do you have globally? Do you have a single payroll solution for all of your entities? What are your goals when it comes to XYZ? For me, that would be hiring globally. For you, that may be, what are your goals when it comes to hiring? What are your goals when it comes to data protection, cybersecurity, machine learning, blah, blah, blah? How will you measure success of this program when we look back 3 months from now? Moving on to E, this is economic buyer. This is ultimately the individual in the organization that has the ability to sign off on the order form or contract. So for example, you may cold call into an organization and set up an initial meeting with a director of HR or a VP of marketing. They may be the program owner. Someone on their team may actually use the software. Irrespective of each of those two roles, that leader will have to then take some sort of proposal to the economic buyer. In many cases, it could be the CFO, chief financial officer. In some cases, it could be the CEO, the COO, or even the founder owner, depending on the size of the company. As you start working with larger enterprises, they may have a dedicated procurement team, or in some cases, your program owner, the department head, the VP of XYZ, they may be the individual that actually owns budget and can actually do that sign off. So if you do not understand who this individual it is, then you're going to have a tough time closing the deal, which requires a signature so they can eventually pay and then start onboarding the services. Along with, imagine you're speaking with the VP of HR. Okay, so along with yourself, who else is involved and or stands to benefit from this program? And then let's say you have that first initial meeting, you start to understand that. Would you be opposed to invite them onto our next meeting so that everyone is aligned? This is called multi-threading, and eventually you want to include multiple different stakeholders, especially your economic buyer, if you can get them on the phone. All right, so the next letter is decision criteria. I like to think about this more as technical requirements or capabilities that your solution must possess in order to make your customer's life easier. So I would ask something along the lines of, what requirements do you have in your ideal solution? Something very basic like that. All right, the next letter is decision process. This ties into the economic buyer. The decision process is basically, let's say you want to buy my software. Let's say you're in the market for a global payroll solution. Amazing. So how do we actually get this deal done? Who signs off? What needs to happen? Even if they want to do business with you, they can't just snap their fingers and make it happen. And more often times than not, they may not actually know how to make it happen. So it's your job as the seller to help guide them through the process and educate them on how these things usually work. And you got to ask questions to understand so that you can then begin to use your expertise. To understand the decision process, I would ask something along the lines of, ask about timeline. Are we your vendor of choice at this period of time? When is your ideal launch date? What do the next steps look like internally for you to make a decision? And when you're asking these questions, ask it and pause. Are we the vendor of choice? Yeah, of course. All right, so the next letter, the next in the acronym framework here is, I'm using a lot of buzzwords now that I'm back in technology. I am learning this in my job so that I can use it, and I'm making this video because it actually helps me learn it better by trying to teach it, and hopefully is useful to you as well. So if you can appreciate that, hit the thumbs up button now. Identify pain. How is your XYZ solution program working today? So you want to get a feel of the current state, and then you want to, what we call, drag them through the glass. You want pain. I was listening to a call today, and the prospect said, "This is the bane of my existence." And then she went on to explain the manual process, wasting time, and all of these problems. You want to understand these things, because if you don't understand what is preventing them from having a nice experience, then you can't possibly deliver them a great experience. So once you understand current state, start to get into the negative consequences. What do you dislike about that? What isn't working? What do you think could be improved? How are these challenges you're facing impacting the business? Why does that matter? All right, next, the first of 3 C's. Make sure to stick around for all 3, because I add on the third C. Not everyone does that. Champion. This is your internal stakeholder that is going to be able to influence the economic buyer. And we must cover the idea of a cheerleader. A cheerleader is someone that's going to tell you, we want you. We want to get this done. We're working on it. But they have no ability to influence the process. And this can lead to a lot of frustration as a sales rep and a lot of lost deals, because you have someone at the company telling you all these great things, but when in reality, they're not actually influencing the process, because a lot of these deals, the decisions are made when you're not in the room. They're selling on your behalf. So you need to clearly understand who is a detractor here, who is a risk, who is going to advocate for you. Are they a cheerleader or are they a champion? Are they someone that's going to walk in to the department head, the chief human resource officer, or the chief financial officer and say, look, this is why we need to do this. This is why we need to do it now. This is why it needs to be a 3-year deal. And we need this. We can't wait. And I'm willing to risk my job for this, because this program is either going to get me promoted or it's going to get me fired. And in some instances, that is the way it is. So you want to understand champion. What are the objectives we need to overcome to become the vendor of choice? Because you are there as their partner. You are there as their consultant in many ways. So you need to understand what challenges they're facing and how you can help them overcome those internal roadblocks so you can get them set up on this program. The next C, competitors. This one's pretty intuitive. What other vendors are they evaluating? What other vendors are you evaluating? And you don't want to come across as needy or desperate. Why? And I see this all the time. I always say, no matter who it is, I say, look, they're a great company. Here are some ideas to consider. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to go check them out as well, because it increases the trust when you don't get defensive. Is there anything the other vendors have shown you that's really stood out? So you want to start to, rather than just getting, are they your choice? Are we your choice? Are you going to pick me? Needy energy. You want to come across as professional and start to understand, aside from price, how are you going to make this decision? And this is when it gets into the requirements, and this is when it gets into the business case, because maybe you're selling the more expensive solution. You can't just sell on price. You got to sell on value. Are we the vendor of choice at this point? Super important to understand. The final and third C is compelling event. I think this might be the most important one. Why now? Why would your leadership care about a change like this? Those are a few questions you can ask. In today's video, we covered the MEDDICCC sales discovery methodology, metric, economic buyer, decision maker, decision criteria, identify pain, competitors, champion, compelling event. Deals are won and lost in discovery. Every single word, every single minute on these meetings is precious and really matters. So get informed on these ideas. Watch this video back if you need to. Memorize the questions you need to be asking, and then come across as an active listener. Don't just say, I need to ask all these questions in order because Trent said. Ask a question, pause, listen to what they say. Could you tell me more about what you mean by that? Hey, you mentioned XYZ. Why does that matter? That's what discovery is all about.